Hello, my name is Ade and welcome to another tutorial for RPG All-in-One. This video will be covering how to create an NPC along with its dialogue and other interactions. So for the purposes of this video, we'll be focusing mainly on the NPC interactions and its dialogue. So we're going to actually turn off the abilities for the NPCs to fight. So if you would like to know where to change that, that's inside of combat options, and you just want to untick NPCs fight. So if we go back to our NPC window now, we can add a new one. And we're going to call this NPC the Overlord. And again, we need to generate a prefab for this NPC. So if we click generate prefab, it should create one of our capsule people again, which will move into a better position so we can have a look at it. There we go. So once again, you want to delete the capsule and find your model inside of your project folder and drag it into the scene. Make it a child of the NPC prefab and make sure you reset its position like so. You can resize the character model to fit within the character controller capsule, but you don't necessarily have to for NPCs which do not fight. So for this one, we're actually going to leave it the same. The combatant UI won't be used because obviously this NPC is not going to fight, so we don't have to worry too much about that. But if we were worrying, we can move it up or down or wherever, just so it looks a bit better. And once again, we want to assign our character model to our RPG controller script and hit apply. So that NPC prefab is set up. We're going to move it now into a better position. Let's move it up. So our player is going to spawn over there. So we'll have the NPC within its view radius, like so. Okay. Right, so the next thing we want to do is assign some interaction and animations to our NPC. We'll first do the animations. So we can select our animated model here and get our idle animation like so. And the next thing we want to do is open this interaction window. So obviously when you find an NPC in the game, you obviously want to be able to talk to him, have a bit of dialogue, maybe there'll be a cutscene that starts. So we're going to cover how to do the basics of that. So the first node that's already here is the enter dialogue node. And what we want to do is link that to an NPC response. Oops. If you're finding that this window is slightly laggy at the moment, you can turn off the grid. That's up to you. So it has dialogue and voice. And it's gonna link to a couple of player responses. So let's make a couple of those. And you can click the plus icon here to add an additional response. So we have 4 of them for this one. So we have 3 player responses and final player response can be a simple goodbye. And so if a player response doesn't link to anything, then I'll end the dialogue. So let's cover the first one. So let's have the player saying, "Hello, how are you?" And the NPC can then reply and say, "Great, thanks." You can actually maximize this window as well. And player can respond with, "Okay, bye." Or what you could actually do is use display response here. And you can right click the node linkers to remove a link. Hit delete to delete nodes, and this instead can link to this goodbye. Now our second response could ask for a quest. Right, but however, we would only want to show that if the quest we're going to give to the player hasn't been started yet. So what we can actually use here is a quest status node. And this gives us a couple of options. Let's move this further down. Okay, so if the quest is startable, then we'll show this response, and if the quest is completable, we'll show another response, and that will say I've done the quest. And so what we could then say is, for this quest, stop the rampage, we can link this to a begin quest node, stop the rampage, and if we've completed all of the conditions for the quest, stop the rampage, we can then complete the quest, and that will just mark the quest as completed in the quest log, etc. However, we don't want that complete option to be available unless the quest itself is actually completable, and by completable we mean that we've completed all of the conditions for the quest. Similarly, we don't want the startable response to show up unless the quest is startable, and the quest won't be startable if it's already in progress. You can additionally add more nodes if you've completed a quest, or if the quest is in progress, and if the quest isn't found for some reason. Our response here could be to start cutscene, and we're not gonna show fully how to create a cutscene, we'll cover that in a separate video, but for the purposes of this one, we'll just make a very basic one. So we want to first start a cutscene, and what we can say is, for example, camera look at position, and we can wait for a few seconds after we look at that position, and then end the cutscene, like so. So there we go, we've covered a few things you can do there. So we can have a simple NPC response to player response to NPC response, just to have basic dialogue with it ending on the goodbye. We can have some dialogue for starting and finishing a quest, and we can also have some dialogue for starting a cutscene. And what we can do is we can just quickly make this a bit smaller, and the camera will be roughly here, and we'll say when the cutscene starts, we'll just look over to this little archway here. So what we need is just reference to that position. So there's two ways we can do this, and I'll show the more advanced way. So as you can see here, we can simply use a vector free value, but instead what we can do is we can have a cube. Now if we take this cube and put it roughly where we want the camera to look at, which is about there, we can give this cube a special name. We'll call it cutscene01 underscore cube. Now if we go back here, we'll notice that we have a blue circle for this vector free value. So if you move this along further, should we move this down here? Obviously how you lay out your nodes is up to you. So what we could do is we can do a game object node by name. So the name of our game object is cutscene01 underscore cube, and we want that value as a vector free. So we can do game object to vector free. So we want to link these two. The link here is a little bit weird, but it still works, and we want to link this game object to vector free value to here. So now the vector free value that the camera is looking at is going to be from this cutscene01 cube, and if we hit save, that is now done. Okay, so let's have a look and see if this all works. So let's make sure we save our data, double check our NPCs in the scene. Okay, and let's have a little test. Okay, so there's our NPC. If we walk towards him and right click to interact, we have our 4 options that we created. So hello, how are you? Great, thanks, and then you can say goodbye. And let's try our second option, let me start a quest. And as you can, if we open our dialog window, remember that's only showing one of them. Oops, wrong NPC. So we want to be looking at the overload. So this is one we created. So you see it says let me start the quest because the quest is startable. So if I choose that one, starts the quest. Now this dialogue is from the quest itself, and now we have a new quest available there, and we can run off and go do that quest. Instead, we're gonna talk to our NPC again, and notice how the let me start quest option is no longer there. So let's try the cutscene. So there we go, it looks towards that cube, waits 5 seconds, and that's the end of the cutscene. And obviously our goodbye will just end the cutscene, like so. So what we can actually do, which is quite interesting with these node editors, if we move this cube to over here for instance, and we go back onto the game, now we're looking in a different direction. So that is quite useful for testing your cutscenes. You can change the cutscenes in a node editor or in the scene, depending on how you set it up, and it will make the changes. So for example, if we right click this NPC, he has 3 options here. But if we go to our dialogue for the overload, you can actually add a new option at the bottom here. Should be a player response, and we'll say just new option. And if we close this and make sure we save, now if we talk to him, we have this new option here. So you can change the dialogue while the game is running, and it'll be fine. So if you want to learn more about the cutscenes, you can check out another video which we will have released soon. Else, just check out the playlist in the description for more tutorials and videos, and have a lovely day.